Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you the process of how I made the Aang animation. Now the actual animation itself, I actually streamed this about for over 5 days, 2 hours every day. And those are found on my YouTube page. So please go and watch those to see the entire animation process. And when I finished that stream, which was the other day, this was the final result of the stream, which looked like this. So it's this is the animation's okay. It's not amazing. I was slightly strapped for time, but I wanted to make sure that the animation was done, and then with my extra time left over, I could animate some of the lighting and stuff like that. So this was for the Agora Animation Challenge. This month was martial arts, and I watched the Avatar live action show the other day, and I was a bit sad that there was no water bending from Aang. So I thought, just something short and sweet, have some water bending with Aang. But I wanted the water to really pop, and that was my biggest dilemma. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I did the water and how I did the lighting and making it look a bit prettier. So the first thing I did, which you saw in that video, was I basically took a ball and animated it basically following the hand. So the way I did this was I used a script which is called World Bake, and it's a very popular script among animators. I'm sure some people watching know what this is. And basically what this does is you take any controller, so I took this wrist, and I basically took this animation and I baked it onto a locator. So bake this to locator. Give it a second. Yeah. And now you get this locator here by the hand, which is now can always be in the same location as the wrist at any frame. See, it's here still. It's basically taken the whole animation and just copied it in world space onto this locator. And then to make the water sort of look nice, I then use Animbot. And you can use also animation layers for the same thing. I think you can. And you take the plugin, which basically moves everything the same amount on every frame. So then I moved on every frame out to about here. You can see where the water is. And now I have this locator. If I show locators, so you can see where it is. Viewport locators. Where is it? Locators. This locator, which is now every single frame. It's around about, you see it's now over here. It's going to always copy the location of the body, but offset that amount of frames. So this is important because I took this location, and I'm going to delete this one now. And I basically took this animation, which was basically like, imagine a stick out from the arm. It was going to copy this location, and I took the sphere and then baked that location back onto the sphere, the ball. So then I had this ball of water following the hand. I then took that animation, cleaned it up, made it a bit nicer, made it follow the arcs I wanted it to follow. And then I was left with basically a nice ball of water. But I wanted to add some of this drag. You can see I have this sort of the teardrop shape. And I'm sure there's a better way to do this. But at the time, I used the shape editor to basically go into this menu. So water. And I basically added a pose. So you basically create a folder, which is a water folder. You select the geometry and you can add a target. So this is a new target now. You can make this anything you want, anything. And then if I edit this this key, I go into vertex mode or sculpt mode, any mode for editing vertices. I use soft selection as well, make it like a bit smoother. I can drag this up. I can make like any pose I want. I have this pose now. And then if I key this, I can drag this slider and it goes back and forth between these two poses. So what I did was, I'll delete this one now. I made a drag pose when I just took the bottom verti and dragged it out like this. And I then just animated this drag all back down to basically nothing, when it's basically a ball. So this is a ball, which is nothing. So when it was going really fast, I pulled out the end. So I keyed this, so you can key this frame here. If it's got a key, this is keyed. And you can key this on and off depending on how much drag you wanted for the water. But that didn't quite get me the nice sort of, I guess, texture I wanted. So I decided for the texture, I'm going to use a different modifier. I'm going to use a a modifier, which, or I guess deform modifier, which is in the deform, and you go down to nonlinear, and you have these nonlinear deformers. So the first one I did was the bend. So for example, on this part here, or maybe go to a better part, bigger part. Yeah, here we go. You see how this curve, it goes round sort of the arc of the path. There we go. It's a nice bend. I really wanted to make that bend. And using shape keys, which is this shape editor, I did try it once, and it was just so... It took so much time because it was just doing every single frame, and it was just too much work. So that was not a good idea for the curves. So the way I made this work was I then took the same script, the location script, and I baked this back down to a locator. So you can see now I have the world baked sphere. So now this locator is following the water. So go to any frame you want to go to. Again, it's in the water still. And I then took a bend modifier. So if I show deformers, you see what I mean. Show viewport deformers. And I took, this is the, where is it gone? Bend handle here. This is the bend handle. And I constrained this this handle to the locator. So you can see if I follow this down space, which I've already done, this deformer is following the locator all around. It's just going wherever this goes, it goes. So now the deformer is affecting the water, and it's also following the water. So it's having the same impact on every single frame. So the way that actually works, if I just show you, is if you select the geometry, you then create the bend modifier. And then if you go down to the attribute editor, so this is the editor for the bend, you have these three values, which is curvature, and then you can basically animate this, and you can see how it's bending the water. So you then key this, a right click set key, and you can actually see this in the graph editor, though it's a bit tricky. If you click on the deformer, and you see how you've got these low bound, high bound curvature, these values here, and you can then animate these. So this is the high bound, this is the curvature. So this one, you can edit this in the graph editor and you see how it changes where things are. And that was really good. And if you have to change the rotation, because you see how it's only going back and forth, it doesn't go from like side to side, which is a bit annoying. But you can fix this by animating on certain frames the same locator that is the deformer is following. You see, if you animate this, the water also animates. So you can rotate this around in space, or you can rotate this how you want to rotate it. But using the rotation of the locator and the curvature of the deformer from the camera view, you can go to camera view. You can basically create any angle you want, and I just keyed this on the extreme keys to make the posing I wanted. It sounds complicated, but honestly, it's really not. It was just animating. I think for the whole animation, I had to animate about 5 or 6 keys for rotation, and then I just animated the curvature on each turn. That was it. So it's very simple. I then used the exact same method, so the same locator. I constrained the deformer to the locator for the wave deformer. And this allowed me to get the ripple effect, which you can see quite a lot, the sort of rippling effect, which if you go to the outliner, this is the wave handle. And you can see here again, I've keyed this a little bit, make a really, really, really small amplitude. To make this bigger, it gets too big. Make it, yeah, you got to find the right level. And same with the a wavelength, you got to make it so it's not too big. This is just too soft. So make it quite low to make it like a ripple effect. And then, yeah, you go bring down. You got to find the value you want. Here we go. Quite a low value to get a nice sort of ripple effect. Again, I constrained that to the locator, so it's always following the water. So I had the same ripple effect for the whole animation. It was pretty simple, not gonna lie. When I worked this out, and when I found some tutorials to help with these deformers, it was really simple. And then I also have these little water droplets, which you can see here, they're following along. All I did was create 4 spheres outside, and I just basically placed them alongside the water, and I just constrained them to the same locator that's following around. That was it. They're just following. And maybe I scale them slightly with the scale values. So make them bigger and smaller. When I want them to be small, they're small here. And then here at the end, they're a bit bigger. And they're bigger here. That's all I did. Just they're following the water. So that was the water. And I think that took me the longest time. This whole animation was the water. I mean, in terms of the animation itself. I mean, the post-processing part, the water took the longest. Yep. And that was kind of how the water works. Um, right. So the rest of the scene is pretty standard, nothing crazy. I use the same trick of the deformers on the water at the bottom. If I turn on the lights, you can see I've got like a translucent plane. Actually, got two planes. So yeah, one is the ground, which is this one at the bottom, and then one above it, which is just the water surface. And using this time, I used a sine modifier or deformer just to have a slight ripple going across the water. Maybe it's too much, but you can barely see it. This is just a donut, so you could create a polygon torus. You add a translucent material and just scale it up, scale it down. That took me 5 minutes, if not less. And then the rest is just decoration. So I took some cubes and I just animated some. Sorry, I made some cubes, and I just dropped them in. I also I used this cube pack. It basically drops a bunch of cubes into your scene, and there's groups of them. So you can see, for example, where is it gone? I need to clean up this. It's so messy. Sorry. Yeah, you see how there's groups of like this group and there's that group, and I just moved them how I wanted to move them. That's just the rocks themselves. For the sort of tree and the grass, I could make this myself, but I couldn't be asked to. So I used this asset pack, which is called Low Poly Nature. I can't find where I got this from because it was a long time. It was like 3 years ago. So if someone knows where this is from, please add the credit below and I will credit them because I didn't make this. So I don't want to take someone's work and steal it. This is not mine, but I can't credit it. I don't know who made it. So please let me know who made this. And same with the background image. I just went to Google, typed in stylized sort of sky. And again, I don't know who made this. So if someone recognizes this image, please do tell me and I will put them in the description for credits. And that's kind of it. I mean, the lighting is just a directional light, which I'll show you the lights. The lights are, there you go. So we've got directional light, which is just like the sunlight. So it's giving the whole scene illumination. There's also a spotlight, which is just focusing really on Aang, just to give him a bit more brightness. Though to be fair, it's quite a bright scene. Then the shaders, it's just I use the toon shaders for everything. So if you go to rendering, for example, we'll click on the brown one. You go toon, assign fill shader, and then you have these options. And I use the 2-tone or 3-tone shader, which creates a ramp shader in the hypershade, and you can just take 2 colors, and it basically just depending on the lighting, it just gives you a light color or a dark color or whatever color you've chosen. So I've got the grass one, which is these two. The ruins is like black and stuff. So like the rock here, just different grays. And then I also put on some shadows, which I don't think the shadows do much, but I have got shadows, the little bit. I then also put ambient occlusion on because I think that makes the, like you see here, it's a bit better for the water. With you can see where it's standing. Same, I put on motion blur for the first time. I've never used motion blur for play blasting, but I thought I'd try it because this is a fun project. Just a really small amount. I'll show you how much I used. So for the motion blur, it's just 0.1, tiny. And then I also have hardware fog, which you can. This is quite fun. This is the thing I think worked the nicest. So this basically creates like a fog thing. You can see how if I change this, you can get the right level. And you can choose your color. I put blue because of the water, but you can do anything you want, like red, like a red sky. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to do. And then, yeah, I think that's it really, for Maya at least. Yeah, that's what I did for Maya. And okay, I'm gonna nip over to DaVinci because I did do some post processing in DaVinci, and I'll show you what I did there. But that was very quick and small. Okay, here's DaVinci, which you can see is basically the same. So just in case you were wondering, this is not rendered in Arnold. I just used Viewport 2.0 for this. Um, and I basically just put some vignette sort of filter, which is at the bottom, vignette in the edit tab. These are all free, by the way. Everything here is free, so I haven't paid for anything. And that just basically gives you a filter, which up here in the effects, you can then edit how big and small this is. And for the sound effects, as a YouTuber, I get access to the YouTube library. I think everyone has this access, to be honest. I don't think it's special. But yeah, this gives you a library of free sounds, all of which are copyright free as well. So I just typed in water, and I got all these water sound effects, mostly just sort of pouring or leaking. I downloaded a bunch. I then mixed them together. I used different ones to create different effects, just to make layered approach, a layered sort of stack of sounds. And then I also at the bottom have a forest sound, just like birds chirping, which I don't think you can really hear, to be honest. If I play this, I don't think you can hear it. But yeah, and that was the sound. And that's it. That's the animation done. So this probably took me a week in total, 2 hours every day, maybe 3 hours on the weekend, as in on the first day, Sunday. Um, yeah, it was really fun. Please do like and subscribe. The whole animation process is on my YouTube channel, so if you're just doing work, put it on in the background or something. And yeah, I have other videos on my channel which are tutorials or personal stuff, and I am slowly trying to grow. Um, and hopefully this is helpful or interesting, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much, and bye bye.